Hello, and welcome to this foster care orientation training webinar brought to you by the Foster Care Institute. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, the founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I'm a consultant, I'm a trainer, I'm an author of several foster books, but most importantly, I am a foster and adoptive parent myself. And years ago, my wife and I made the decision to become foster parents. And just like you, we went through orientation as well. Our goal during this training webinar is to increase your knowledge of what foster care is and how the system operates. Our objectives are to increase your awareness of what foster care is and their possible part in it, and for you to gain understanding of the truths of foster care instead of the many myths and misconceptions that surround foster care. So many in society ask, what is foster care all about? To be sure, we hear about foster care in the news a lot. We hear commercials on the radio. We see ads on TV. We read about it in magazines and newspapers. We see it online. We may even know some foster and adoptive parents. Maybe we work with some foster parents. Maybe there's a foster parent program at our local church or faith-based group. But at the end of the day, we have questions. What is foster care really all about? To be sure, there are so many myths and misconceptions about foster care out there. Myths that your friends and family members might believe. Myths that general society often believes. Now, let me be honest with you. Before I was a foster parent, I had those myths and misconceptions in my heart and in my head. I believed what I read about foster care and what I heard about foster parenting. And so much of what we read and hear in the media is negative, is harsh, is full of half-truths and judgments. Some believe that it's the child's fault. Maybe this might be the biggest misconception about children in foster care, is that the child themselves is somehow at fault. There are those in society who do not appreciate that these are children who are victims. These are children who are suffering from abuse, suffering from neglect, suffering from abandonment. As one who has had over 60 children placed in my own home as a foster parent, I can assure you that abuse looks like many different forms, that neglect comes in different forms, and that abandonment and homelessness is truly all around us. When placed into a foster care home, perhaps like yours in the future, many of these children carry with them the physical and emotional scars that sadly prevent them from accepting the love of another person. There are those negative perceptions out there about foster care. Perhaps you have had them in the past, or perhaps you've heard about those. Far too many times, as we pointed out earlier, the news about foster parenting is one that is negative. We hear a negative story about a foster parent or about a child in foster care in the news, in your local area, at the state level, nationwide. There are so many negative myths and misconceptions that surround foster care and surround foster parenting, both by today's media and by word of mouth. Still, others believe that working with birth parents, the biological family members of the child placed in foster care, is one that is challenging, is one that is stressful, and this challenge and this stress and this belief turns others away from becoming a foster parent. The belief that working with the birth parents of these children turns these people away from having a child placed in their home. These beliefs that working with biological family members of children in foster care prevents some people from opening up their home to children in crisis. Yet in truth, reunification is often the end goal for most children in foster care. Now, as a foster parent, part of our mission is to support reunification with our foster child and his biological parents. I hear over and over and over again, Dr. John, I could not do what you do. It would hurt too much to give these children back. Children in foster care need stability. Yes, they need security, but what they need the most is to be loved. We might be the first adult who has ever loved a child in a healthy and unconditional fashion. Sadly, for some children, we might be the only adult who will ever love that child in this fashion, in an unconditional manner. So when the child does leave our home and our family, yes, our hearts will break. They should break. Grief and loss are very real feelings and experiences for foster parents, and we will look at this thoroughly throughout this orientation program. We should experience these feelings of grief and loss because we give all of our hearts to these children. When you become a foster parent and you bring a child into your home, a child is placed in your home, you will find that you will come to love this child like he's a member of your family, like he's your own child. We have given all of our hearts and love to a child in need, so when they do leave our home, yes, it does hurt, but it should hurt. It should hurt. Because again, we might be the first person who's ever given that child the gift of a broken heart, the gift of unconditional love. We might be the first adult, or first person, if you will, who's ever cried tears of love over that child. And what a wonderful and marvelous gift that truly is. Another misconception is that your own biological children will suffer as you care for children in your home. The truth is this, though. Your children will have insight into how others live, and your children will become more compassionate towards others. As I noted, I've had 60 plus children come through my home and through my family. And for my own children, it's the only lifestyle they've ever known as a foster care sibling. And indeed, I have seen my children become very compassionate, very caring towards others, willing to help another child who is suffering at a moment's notice. Now, my children may never become foster parents in the future, and that's okay. But I believe, though, that they will lead a life of serving others in some fashion, in some way. And you will find that very well may be the case for your own children. So when you care for children in foster care in your home and in your family, you will be allowed the opportunity to show your child how to be giving, how to be considerate of others. In addition to this, your child will learn how to share belongings and time, how to be sensitive and understanding to the pain that others might be suffering from. As a foster family, you can do all of this in a very real, very hands-on, very relevant fashion. Your own children will become much more cognizant, much more aware of the realities of suffering that some children in their school and their classrooms go through than many of their peers. And that is truly a bonus. So, what is foster care? Well, foster care is a form of placement for children who are in need of being placed in a home or environment outside of their home of origin. This placement is a 24-hour substitute care for these children while they are placed outside their own home. During this time, a child from foster care is placed in a foster home, perhaps yours. The birth family is assigned a case plan during this time. Let there be no mistake. Each case plan is different. Each case plan is different according to the challenges the family may face, according to the reasons the child is placed into foster care to begin with. Now, as a result, you will find that foster parenting is never a monotonous or boring job, because every time a child is placed in your home, it's going to bring unique and different circumstances to it. It is a job, if you will, that one can never get used to. And that is part of the adventure. That is part of the growth for you. And that is part of the joy. It is the goal of each case plan for a child from foster care to be reunited with the birth family or birth family members. These could be aunts and uncles, cousins, grandparents, older siblings. This reunification occurs when the family, birth family, or biological parents, has concluded the obligations of their case plan. And this could take some time. Again, each circumstance and each case is different, is unique. Now, the time frame in a foster home, in your foster home, varies from one child from foster care to the next, from one child to another. Some may stay one day. Others may stay as long as a couple of years. My wife and I have had a child stay for as little as one day, for as long as 2 years. The average amount of time a child from foster care spends in the foster care system is on average 28.6 months in length, which you can see is a little over 2 years, with half of all children from foster care being placed in another home for a year or more. Now, as noted, some children may stay for just a week, a day, a week, a month, a year. Some may stay 2 years. Sadly, there are those children who may bounce from home to home to home, to placement to placement to placement for years. But why are children placed in foster care to begin with? Why might a child enter into the foster care system? Why might a child be placed in your home? What are those circumstances that leads to a child being removed from their mother and their father? What leads to a child being removed from their house and their home and their family members? What leads a child being removed from everything he or she might know and is familiar to them and being placed into a foster care system? For some, it might be neglect. Neglect of a child's basic need for food. Sanitary living conditions may be neglected as well. I recall an instance where my wife and I had 5 children, 5 siblings, placed into our home because the sanitary conditions that they lived in were completely neglected. No electricity, no plumbing, no food or water, no heat. And as if you may read in my book, Love and Mayhem, the floor of the home was covered with human and dog feces. That may sound obscene, yet for some of these children, the truth is more horrible than we can imagine. Neglect may look like the lack of proper and needed medical conditions. For some, it may be the lack of supervision, and you will find that so many children who are placed in your home have never had any kind of supervision whatsoever. Neglect can also be the emotional needs are not met by the parent or by an adult in their life. Some children are placed into the foster care system and into your home for forms of physical abuse. Now, abuse takes many different forms. Physical injury might be a type of abuse caused by a parent or a caregiver. Visible bruising to a more tragic situation where the parent or caregiver physically assaults the child, where the child is beaten, if you will. Physical abuse can even take the form of locking a child in a closet or in another confined space. Again, physical abuse takes many different forms. Some children suffer sexual abuse. Sexual abuse of a child may involve voyeurism or the viewing of pornographic material, or sexual acts with a child, or the act of sexually fondling or penetration or rape of a child. You may have heard about the opiate epidemic that has been strangling America of late. As a result, more children are being placed into the foster care system due to the opiate epidemic. And the opiate epidemic is one that it is in every community in our nation. Those parents who abuse drugs or alcohol place their children in danger, quite frankly. This danger, make no mistake, may result in neglect, may result in physical abuse, or may result in domestic violence. There are those parents who allow their own children to take drugs and alcohol. They also place their children into danger as well. Parents may either ignore the dangers or unaware of the child's abuse of the drugs or alcohol the child is exhibiting. Domestic violence, another form of abuse a child may experience. When a child is living in an environment where two or more caregivers are engaged in violent altercation, the child's safety is then jeopardized through this sort of violence. Indeed, every year in the United States alone, 5 million children experience or witness domestic violence in their own homes. Abandonment. Abandonment occurs when a parent or a caregiver chooses to leave the child voluntarily. Many times, this abandonment may occur with a friend, a neighbor, or a babysitter. Other times, a parent may simply leave the child at home for a great length of time. I recall in a situation where my wife and I had a child placed in our home. Actually, there were two children placed in our home. One child was about 2 years of age, the other child was about 6 months old. The two were found on a street, indeed, a busy highway, if you will, abandoned. These children were placed in our home. I recall an instance where we had a 17-year-old child who was abandoned by his mother. She chose her boyfriend of 1 month over her son. The son ended up homeless and came to live with us. Sadly, many children are abandoned or end up homeless and are then find their way to the foster care system. Some children are placed in the foster care system due to incarceration. Children may be placed in the foster care system after all the parents, family members, and caregivers are unavailable due to their placement into prison or jail. Finally, some children may be placed into foster care due to death. On these very rare occasions, a parent's death may lead to a situation where there are no family members willing, able, or available to provide and care for a child. As a result, the child may end up into the foster care system. So, you are about to undertake the journey, the adventure of becoming a foster parent. But what is a foster parent? This here is a picture of my family. We have had the blessing of adopting 3 children from the foster care system. Did we go into foster care intending to adopt? Absolutely not. But like you, we entered into foster care with so many questions. We believed those myths and misconceptions. We were unsure of what we were getting into. And let me tell you, it has been the most wonderful journey we've both experienced. Foster parents are those people who open up their homes to children from foster care in an attempt to assist troubled children. Now, each state has different rules, different guidelines. Each state has different expectations and different laws. On top of that, many agencies in a state may have their own set of guidelines or rules or regulations or practices or policies or expectations. A successful foster parent is one who provides a caring environment while a birth family member works on their caseload for reunification. Foster parents not only provide a caring environment, but they provide a safe and stable environment as well. As a foster parent, you will agree to carry out all functions of the birth family. These day-to-day functions, they may include a number of things. They may include assuring that the child's medical, nutritional, educational, and parental needs are met. Foster programs that are sponsored by state child welfare programs allocate a monthly stipend to help with the cost of taking another child into a home. This is often known as a per diem. Each child is allocated a certain dollar amount depending upon the child's age as well as the state's allotment. This money, or this per diem, if you will, is to cover or help cover food, to help cover clothing, and to help cover personal allowance. Medical care is also provided by the government. Each child, each child placed into foster care, each child placed into your home and with your family will receive a state medical card guaranteeing that payment for all medical needs, along with necessary medicines, are met. As a foster parent, you will work side by side with a caseworker. What is a caseworker? A caseworker is an employee of the Child Welfare Agency who was assigned to the child from foster care. Generally, most often, for the entire time the child is placed under the care of the agency. Now, this entire time, is this 100% guaranteed? No. Some caseworkers may be moved to another case for whatever reason it might be. Some caseworkers may simply retire. But generally, as you have a child in your home, you will generally have the same caseworker assigned to that child that you will work alongside. Caseworkers will work in conjunction with the state as well as the court system as they place a child into a foster home, as they place a child potentially into your home and with your family. Caseworkers are required to visit the home of each child from foster care once a month in an attempt to simply see how the child from care is progressing, is coming along, how the child is doing, as well as to gather information from you, from the foster parents, and answer any questions you might have. Caseworkers also work alongside the child's teachers, the child's therapists, the child's doctors, the child's parents, and any other caregiver. As you can imagine, caseworkers today are overworked. Caseworkers today are overwhelmed. Caseworkers today are under resourced, and caseworkers today are underpaid. Caseworkers are just like you and I. They have emotions and they have feelings. Some caseworkers may grieve the loss of a child moved from your home. Sometimes caseworkers may not agree with the decision of court. Sometimes caseworkers may become frustrated with how the system works as well. They have emotions and feelings just like you because they are doing a job simply because of this, because they care about the outcome of a child. We will look at working with caseworkers later on in this program. You are about to undergo a wonderful adventure and a wonderful journey. Not only will you change the life of a child, your life is about to be changed as well. Every child that has come through my home has made me a better person in some way, has made me a better father to my own children, has made me a better spouse to my wife, has made me a better member of the community, and has simply made me a better person in whole. Yes, there have been those times when foster parenting has been a little bit challenging. And we'll look at some of those challenges throughout this program. At the same time, it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. As you go throughout this program, this orientation program, I would like you to keep this in mind, please. Years from now, the child who's going to come and live in your home, years from now, that child may never remember your name. And years from now, that child that you will care for in your home, they may never remember your face. Yet, years from now, that child will remember this, that for a time in their life, and maybe the only time in their life, somebody loved them. That's you. You're planting a seed of love that will blossom and bloom into something much more wonderful and much more beautiful. My friend, I can't change the world. And my friend, quite simply, you can't change the world. That's the truth. But for the children who will be placed in your home, their world will be changed. Their world will be changed by all that you do for that child. By giving them the stability, by giving them the structure, by keeping them safe and secure, by giving them consistency, but most important, by providing them the unconditional love that the child needs. So I want to say to you, welcome to this orientation program. I'm so glad that you have chosen and made the decision to have a different type of lifestyle, the lifestyle of being a foster parent. Now, when you finish up and complete the foster care orientation program, I encourage you to continue on and become a special member here at the Foster Care Institute. When you become a special member of the Foster Care Institute, you will have unlimited access to over 50 hours of online training webinars and CEUs, and so much more when you become a member of the Foster Care Institute. And this membership is available to you when you finish this orientation program. This membership will help you continue to remain licensed as a foster parent. One of the books that we have here at the Foster Care Institute is the Foster Care Survival Guide, the essential guide for today's foster parents. It's a book that you may wish to consider purchasing here at the Foster Care Institute. And we have a number of other books available at the Foster Care Institute as well. Books that I know you are going to find very valuable indeed. Find me on Facebook. Find me at Twitter. Find me at LinkedIn and YouTube. Just simply look up Dr. John DeGarmo. And there's my email address. If you have questions about this webinar or anything else, I'm here to assist you. I'm here to help you. My friend, you will find this to be true. No one will truly understand you as a foster parent like another foster parent. When you begin to care for children in your home, you will soon learn that your friends and family members really don't understand or appreciate what you do. They may even question why you do it. If you need some support, if you need some questions answered, you need some reassurance, simply please email me at drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. I'm here to help you. Once again, thank you for beginning this wonderful and exciting journey, a journey that I have no doubt you have plenty of questions about, a journey that you may have a little bit of anxiety about. Maybe you're a little bit nervous, uncertain, unsure of what to expect. We're going to walk hand in hand throughout these next 5 weeks here at the Foster Care Institute during this foster care orientation and licensing program. And we're going to answer those questions for you. So for the Foster Care Institute, I want to say thank you so much for agreeing to care for children in crisis. My friend, there's a child in your community right now who is excited that someone like you is willing to open up their doors to help them. There's a child right now hoping and maybe even praying that someone will come and rescue them soon, and that person could be you. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.